Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep today into the world of AI and trust. Trust. That's the key word. We've got some fascinating research about DeepSeek, this company that's kind of shaking things up in the AI world.
Yeah, they're definitely making waves, especially because they're achieving these huge breakthroughs without like the billions of dollars that some of these other companies are throwing around.
Right. And that was my first thought, too. How are they pulling this off? They've got this method, reflexivity, I think it's called. Sounds pretty futuristic to me.
It is clever. Think of it like you need to find something, an answer in a massive, massive library. You don't want to read every book.
No way.
DeepSeek's kind of created this super smart librarian who can instantly point you to the exact page with the information you need. So their AI only uses what it needs for each task, not the whole thing every time.
Ah, okay. That makes sense. So it's all about being hyper efficient. But does that really matter to like the average person? Why should someone who isn't like a coder or AI expert care about this?
Well, think about it this way. More efficient AI means cheaper AI. And Andrew Ng, who's, a pretty big name in AI, has been saying for a while now that the cost of this tech is dropping fast. DeepSeek's just accelerating that trend even more.
Okay, yeah, I saw those numbers. It's insane how much cheaper they are compared to, say, OpenAI. Like, OpenAI charges $60 for every million output tokens, whatever those are, but DeepSeek, they're doing it for just over $2.
Huge difference, right? And that difference, it means a lot. It means more people can actually use AI. Smaller companies, researchers, even just individuals. It could be a game changer for access.
Like how PCs kind of opened up computing to everyone, not just big corporations with mainframes.
Exactly. It could be that kind of moment for AI. Opens a lot of doors for innovation when more people can get their hands on the tools,
Absolutely. But then there's this whole other issue with data and control and ownership. I mean, some of these big players are getting upset about data theft, but they built their whole AI empire on public data. Seems a little hypocritical, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit ironic, right? Like complaining about someone borrowing your tools after you built your entire house on their land. It all boils down to this bigger question of, like, who actually controls AI and who owns what it creates? Arnaud Bertrand, he's the co-founder of this company, Me&Chi, uses this term techno-feudalism to describe what he thinks is happening.
Techno-feudalism. That sounds intense. Break that down for me. What exactly does that mean?
Basically, the idea is that the companies that own these big AI models, they might start saying they own everything those AIs create.
Yeah.
Music, writing, code, even scientific discoveries, all of it.
Well, hold on. So if I write a song with an AI, they could say they own my song. That doesn't seem right.
It's a tricky situation for sure. And there are different opinions on this. Like OpenAI, they say in their terms of service that users own what they create, but then they also say you can't use that stuff to train a rival AI.
So I can eat the cookie, but I can't figure out the recipe. That doesn't sound very open to me.
Right. There's definitely tension there between openness and control. And that lack of clarity is creating a trust problem, especially for businesses who want to use AI, but understandably aren't so keen on just handing over all their data.
Makes sense. It's like giving your competitor your secret sauce recipe and hoping they'll just, I don't know, play nice with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Steve O'Grady from Redmonk, he said something that really resonated with me. He said, enterprises know they need to give access to their internal data to get the full benefits of AI, but they hesitate to do it at scale because they don't trust the LLM vendors.
So it's back to that trust issue again. And this is where DeepSeek comes in, right?
Yeah.
With their approach, it's not just cheaper, it potentially gives users more control over their data, more transparency about what's happening.
Exactly. They're challenging the status quo, not just with their technology, but with their whole philosophy,
Yeah.
And in a world where trust is becoming more and more important, that could be a big deal.
It's almost like we're seeing this shift, right? Like the focus is moving away from just bigger is better when it comes to AI. It's becoming more about, I don't know, showing people you can be trusted, that you'll use this powerful tech responsibly.
Absolutely. And that trust, it needs to go beyond just individual users. Businesses, governments, everyone needs to feel confident that AI won't be misused or exploited.
Yeah, totally. It reminds me of how, like, the early internet was so much potential, but also a ton of fear about security and privacy.
Right. And in the end, the platforms that focused on transparency and giving users control, those were the ones that really took off. Like, think about cloud computing, right?
Yeah.
AWS, Microsoft Azure, they became giants because companies felt like they could trust them with their data.
Yeah, good point. It's almost a direct parallel to what DeepSeek's doing. They're not just saying, hey, we're cheaper and more efficient. They're tackling that whole trust issue from the ground up.
Exactly. And this is where someone like Tim O'Reilly comes in. He's been really critical of that whole winner-takes-all mentality that's so common in tech.
Yeah, his article is really thought-provoking. It's like some of these companies are so worried about like hoarding their tech and their market share that they're missing the bigger picture.
That's exactly his point. He argues that kind of thinking, that secrecy, it actually stifles innovation in the long run. He's much more in favor of like an open and collaborative approach, where companies share knowledge and build on each other's work.
So it's less about like a cutthroat competition and more about working together to advance AI as a whole.
Exactly. He compares it to the open source movement in software development, which, as we know, has been hugely successful in creating tools that everyone uses and benefits from.
Okay, yeah, I see the comparison. It makes sense. But honestly, it's hard to imagine these big companies just giving away their secrets, right? They're investing billions in this stuff.
Yeah, I get it. There's definitely a tension there between wanting to protect your intellectual property and the potential benefits of being more open. But O'Reilly's argument is that companies who embrace collaboration, they'll ultimately be more successful.
Because I'll have access to more ideas, more talent.
Right. And they'll be seen as more trustworthy by users and partners, which, like we've been saying, is so important in this field. It almost feels like we're at this crossroads with AI, Do we go down the path of like closed systems and secrecy, or do we try to build something more open and collaborative?
That's the big question, isn't it? And it's not just about the tech itself. It's about, what kind of future we want to create with this stuff. What values are we going to prioritize? I think that's a perfect segue to the last part of our deep dive today. We've talked about DeepSeek. We've talked about this bigger picture of trust and collaboration in AI. But what does all of this actually mean for you? How do you navigate this crazy world of AI that's changing so fast? It's like the more we talk about AI, the more I realize how much we don't know yet.
It's exciting, right? All this potential.
Yeah.
But it also feels a little bit like, walking into a dark forest. You're not really sure what you're going to find.
Yeah, it's definitely uncharted territory in a lot of ways. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations, to try and shine a light on things, figure out the best path forward together.
Totally. It's easy to get swept up in like all the hype, right? All the cool new things AI can do.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember it's still early days. And there's a lot, we're still learning about how this technology works and how it might impact us in the long run. Absolutely. And part of that learning process, I think, is acknowledging that AI isn't like inherently good or bad. It's a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for not so good things.
Right. It all comes down to who's using it and for what purpose. One thing that really struck me from the research we looked at was how AI could actually make existing inequalities worse. Like if only a few powerful companies control this tech, it could end up widening the gap between the haves and the have-nots even more.
That's a real concern, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's why it's so crucial to make sure AI is developed and used ethically, with the focus on inclusivity and making sure everyone benefits, not just a select few.
So it's not enough to just build cool tech, right? We have to build it in a way that benefits all of humanity, not just a small part of it.
Exactly. And I think part of that is being honest about the potential downsides of AI, not just focusing on all the shiny, exciting stuff.
It makes you think about the role of education, too. Like, if we want people to feel empowered in this new AI world, they need to understand how it works. They need to be able to think critically about it.
You hit the nail on the head. We need to demystify AI, help people understand it's not some magical black box. Give them the tools to ask the right questions and engage in these conversations in a meaningful way.
I have to say, this whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me, and hopefully it's been the same for you too. AI it's complex, it's changing fast, and there's just so much to consider, both the good and the bad.
It's been great exploring all this with you, and I hope this has, sparked your curiosity to keep learning and keep engaging in this dialogue about AI and its future, because it really is a dialogue that affects us all.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, I think the biggest takeaway here is that the AI revolution isn't just about the technology itself, right? It's about the choices we make, the values we decide to prioritize, and ultimately the kind of future we want to build together.
Well said. And it's a future we all have a hand in shaping.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI. We'll keep exploring these questions, and we hope you'll join us again next time.